Hey, Fit Fam. Skye here, the Limitless Nutritionist and Challenge Queen from Limitless Health Go, wanting to talk to you about a really interesting subject today, which is how to protect yourself when a client relationship starts to go a bit sour. All right. And it's really interesting as well because you can utilize, what we're going to talk about in a second in your everyday life as well. All right. So it can be with friends or family even, because, sometimes we have family relationships that are a bit, odd or different, or, we might not like what somebody says to us or whatever. All right. So we're going to kind of discuss all those things. Now, if you're finding this, today's video or, any of these topics interesting, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, by clicking the link wherever it may be, to keep up to date with everything that we're putting out. So let's jump in. Now, I actually want to start with a bit of my own story, just in this to give an example of how this could be showing up for you. And 100%, I bet you can think of an instance already. If you've been in business for a little while, I'm certain you can think of an instance where you've had a client relationship that's gone a bit sour, and maybe, you felt really emotional about it and different things like that. It's actually super interesting to me because this story that I'm going to tell you is actually from like years and years and years ago. And it was my first lesson, or my greatest lesson in something that is called discernment. All right. And the funny thing is, and why I say this is because the word discernment did not come into my vision until within the last year. I did not know that there was a word, and you guys, you may have heard of the word discernment before. Apparently I just never have, or it never registered in my brain, right? But I knew this lesson because I remember it from years ago. And so I have been practicing discernment without even realizing that there's a word for it. All righty. And now I hear it all the time. Like it just comes up everywhere. So what I mean is, all right, let me tell you the story. So I actually tell this story in my Beast Mode Business Bootcamp, when we're talking about mindset and things like that, because it is really important that we do protect ourselves emotionally when we are working so closely with clients. Like you guys know, if you're in fitness, in health, in nutrition, in coaching, you feel deeply. You would already be an empathetic human, as I am too, right? And so we often feel our clients' pains. We feel their successes as if they are our own, And so what happened to me, many years ago, or what happened for me is a better way of actually putting that, is that I had this scenario where I had been helping a client, and this was in my nutritional medicine clinic back when I had that, and I was helping her, and I gave her like the juiciest of the juice stuff, right? Like it was amazing, because she needed it. She needed the help, and she had like a lot of potential disease spectrum going on, because I loved working with people, give me the weird and the wonderful, the disease, send them my way. I loved really unpacking like high risk clientele and stuff like that. So she had a lot going on for her. Alrighty. And anyway, so we had consultations. I'd given her hours of my time for very little money at that stage, because it was early in my nutritional medicine, career. I hadn't learned the lesson of discernment as yet, and maybe wasn't holding my own worth and value and keeping boundaries in place. So I was probably a bit loose on all of those things at the time. And anyway, so I remember exactly when it was Easter, because what had happened was, we'd had some appointments, we've been following up, I'd been messaging her, all these different things, gave her the juiciest of the juicy information. She, it's time for her to start kicking things in, taking action, changing. And what sometimes comes up for people, in a change process is resistance. All right. And resistance can be a motherfucking bitch. Like it wants to push back. It wants to say, fuck you. It wants to say, we don't have to change. We don't need to do this. All right. And that kind of came up for her. And look, that's part of a human journey. But how it sort of manifested was she had a conversation with her father, who, elderly gentleman, like salt of the earth kind of thing. And he sat there and said, no, I don't believe in this, almost like, voodoo, right? We were literally just talking about, changing her diet, canceling out a few things, implementing some other stuff, whatever, to help her long term, right? And remember, she is diseased. So like the amount of epicness that those changes would have made positively in her life was huge over a long period of time. Her quality of life was going to be, like impacted, from the suggestions that were made. Anyway, her dad came in and was like, no, like, that's it. Like, I don't have to do these things, so why should you? That doesn't, that's not, I don't have to cancel that out, so you shouldn't have to either. Why, da 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 da. And got all like angry and affronted and was like, no, like, that's not how it works. And, like, basically just calling BS on looking after your own nutrition, because he's been able to eat shit his entire life, so therefore she should be able to as well, right? And so anyway, this happened, and she, came back to me. The only reason I know this happened is because I got streams and streams of abusive messaging, and look, it wasn't horrifyingly abusive, right? But it was very direct. It was very at me. It was very confronting. It was very, just full on, right? Because I could see and feel in the messaging that she was sitting in trigger and that she was sitting in resistance, right? Because everything inside of her was screaming, no, I do not have to change. Because sometimes change is hard, right? And that's why resistance comes up. And so anyway, this happened. And when I started getting these messages, these big ones, like one after another, and as I said, I remember exactly when it was. And it was the Thursday before Good Friday, right? And I was sitting in the car and these messages fucking hit me. Like, as in stabbed to the heart. I was devastated that this was the level of conversation that we were having at this point. After giving her, and it wasn't about me, like as in ego, after giving her so much of my time, it was like the love, and the help and the support, and I felt it, and the empathy and the desire to want to change her life and help her with that, because I knew that it was possible, And because I was, that invested in it, it was literally like a fucking dagger to me when she came back with this, this scenario. I was devastated. And I was so devastated and felt it so, mentally, physically, biochemically, that literally that weekend, I put myself into an MS relapse. All right. And so for those of you who don't know, look, I have multiple sclerosis. It's fine. It's not a big deal. On the odd occasion, I'll have a relapse, generally about once a year. And I was so stressed out by that, which can be a catalyst, right? I was so stressed out by that conversation, that occurrence, that happening, that it literally changed my biochemistry. It made me toxic, because I was chewing my own brain out. I was like, oh my God, I felt it so deeply, all of these things. And so it literally ended up kicking in my own, symptoms and things like that. And I just felt awful. Again, why I remember it was Easter, because, at that point, I remember being unwell over Easter. Now, why do I tell you this story? All right. As I said, it was my first and greatest lesson. I do not blame her by any means, or her dad or anything like that, for the circumstance. I thank them, because early in my business, it was an amazing, amazing reminder that people have to take massive and radical self-responsibility for their own actions and therefore their results. Does that mean that I do not care deeply about my clients' lives? Man, if you guys know, if you're my client, if you've ever worked with me, if you've ever sent me questions, even if you've never purchased anything from me, no drama. I am there to help and support. You can messenger me at any point in time, right? And so I still am an empathetic human being. I still care deeply about my tribe. I still feel their successes, and yes, also their failures, often as deep as if they are my own. But I also practice discernment. And discernment means that you are there and that I am here, and that it is okay that you are having that experience. And I don't necessarily have to feel it at that deep level too. I can want to help you. I can hold space for you, but I am safe still here where I am. Does that make sense, everyone? So, when we're talking about how to deal with when we have a potentially toxic situation, with a client relationship, or even, in our, even in our lives. I hear a lot of, clients when I'm talking to them and we're unpacking things, and they'll say, oh, I don't have a really great relationship with my parents or something. And they often run me down, even though I'm doing my own business and I don't love the things that they're saying to me. Discernment, right? Discernment means that it's okay to not have those conversations. If the conversations are making you feel toxic, if they're making you upset, then it is okay to not have that conversation or that level of conversation with that person. And they can still be there and you can still be here and you are still safe. All right, you in your life with your beliefs and all those things. And I know sometimes, it's hard when it is like maybe a family member or something like that. And often the way that I like to look at the family member one is, take advice from the people who are in the arena with you. If they're not doing the do, if they're all opinion, or even worse, what often happens, with maybe family members or friends or things like that, if there is a bit of a, not necessarily a full-on toxic relationship, but there could be a toxic topic, which could be your business, right? And you just can't seem to talk to those people about it. And every time you do, it ends up making you feel a bit, toxic, right? Bad, awful, upset. All right. So you are well within your rights and your power to choose not to have those conversations, and to only have that style of conversation about your business, about showing up every day, about doing the do with other humans who are in the arena with you, who feel things the way you feel, who are, maybe running their own businesses, and aren't necessarily going to come at you with their own fears, with their own anxieties, with their own patterns, all right? Because sometimes if there is something toxic going on, it is due to that. So you can nip it in the bud. And there's another one that I often say as well that I choose, not to do, and I call them pissing competitions, right? I will not have my science is better than your science pissing competitions on social media, because one, I think there's enough success out there in the world, right, for us all to come at things from our different angles, and for that to be okay. And I am not here, to be the savior of everyone, the same for you. You are not here for everyone. You are here for your soul tribe, and that is fucking amazing, and that is perfect, and that is exactly how it is. Right? And your soul tribe aren't going to make you feel toxic, and you can still have discernment with your soul tribe. Feel for what they are going through without embodying it in such a toxic way. Alrighty? And it is so important that we do that for our own best health, our own longevity, and our own experience of life, of business, and to hold that space, yes, for our clients when maybe they are going through something a little bit tough, as I said, without having to embody it yourself. So look, I hope that, is beneficial to you and to your experience. And, I'd love for you to comment below, if you've had an experience of discernment yourself, where maybe you have really taken on board, somebody else's, comments, or somebody else's experience, or what's going on for them, or and felt really awful for it, and that you've embodied it into your own body, and you've ended up being toxic yourself, or you felt upset about it for an extended period of time. Or sometimes the other thing we do is we're like, what are we making this mean, right? Like you get ghosted, or a client never returns, or they're like, no, I don't want to take your advice, like that's it, I'm out of here, and then they go join another gym, and they're getting worse advice there. Discernment. They are on their own journey. They are there, and you are here, and you are safe as you are, and that is okay. And we can still care, and we can still want to send them love and compassion on their journey. But massive and radical self-responsibility means that, they have to take control of their actions and therefore their results, and so do we, which means you can switch off to any conversations that you don't want to have, that make you feel awful, or to people that you can't have a particular type of conversation with. That is all fine. That is all perfect. Alrighty, you are safe, you are loved, you are worthy, and you are enough. Love you guys. Bye.